exploring life over 15,000 years ago in Europe versus Asia, a journey through early human progress. Imagine stepping into a time machine, not just a few hundred years back, but over 15,000 years into the past. The year is around 13,000 BC, a time when woolly mammoths still roamed the earth, and early humans were fighting not just for survival, but for progress. But how different were their lives depending on where they lived? Was Europe more advanced than Asia, or did Asia hold the upper hand? Let's travel back in time and explore. To understand how people lived, we first need to look at their environment. 13,000 BC was the tail end of the last ice age. Europe was a frozen tundra in many places, dominated by glaciers and vast open plains. The people living there, often called the Magdalenians and other upper Paleolithic cultures, had to adapt to extreme cold. They hunted reindeer, bison, and even woolly mammoths. Meanwhile, in Asia, the climate changed dramatically as one moved south. Southern parts of Asia, like modern-day India, China, and Southeast Asia, were much warmer and lush with forests and rivers. This allowed people to rely more on fishing, gathering fruits, and hunting smaller animals like deer and boars. In parts of India, fertile river valleys, such as those near the Ganges and Indus rivers, provided a steady source of food and water, encouraging people to settle in small communities. In the harsh cold of Europe, survival meant sheltering from the elements. Many people lived in caves or built huts from animal bones covered in hides. They were nomadic, moving with the seasons and the migration patterns of animals. Meanwhile, in Asia, early signs of settled life were beginning to emerge. In places like China and India, there is evidence of some groups starting to stay in one place for longer periods, using simple huts made from wood and mud. This marked an important step towards more permanent settlements. The Indian subcontinent, in particular, saw early signs of advanced social structures forming, which would later lead to the rise of one of the world's oldest civilizations. Evidence from sites such as Mehrgarh suggests that people were experimenting with farming and animal domestication thousands of years before Europe saw similar developments. When it comes to tools and weapons, both Europe and Asia had incredibly skilled craftsmen. The Europeans, influenced by their need to hunt large animals, created advanced stone-tipped spears, harpoons, and even early bows and arrows. In Asia, however, there was more variety. Because of the diverse landscapes, tools were made for different purposes, from sharper and finer stone blades to tools used for fishing and early farming techniques. The Asian continent was vast and had multiple cultures developing different specializations at the same time. In the Indian subcontinent, archaeological evidence suggests early experimentation with rudimentary agricultural tools, which would eventually contribute to the agricultural advancements of the Indus Valley civilization. The gradual shift towards settled life in India meant that people were already beginning to cultivate crops like barley and wheat long before agriculture became widespread in Europe. A person's diet is a reflection of their environment. In Ice Age Europe, meat was a staple. With the cold preventing much plant growth, survival depended on hunting and consuming fatty animals for warmth and energy. But in Asia, especially in warmer regions, people had a more balanced diet. They consumed a mix of meat, fish, and gathered fruits, nuts, and wild grains. This access to a wider variety of food likely played a role in Asia developing early agricultural practices before Europe. India, in particular, had access to a rich variety of plant life, which laid the foundation for some of the earliest forms of planned agriculture. This ability to cultivate crops, even in simple forms, gave them a crucial advantage in long-term survival and development. Despite the hardships, early humans were not just focused on survival, they also created art. Europe is famous for its stunning cave paintings, such as those found in Lascaux, France, depicting animals and hunting scenes. In Asia, early artistic expression also existed, but in different forms. Carved figurines, pottery, and early symbols found in China and India hint at a growing sense of culture, storytelling, and even spiritual beliefs. In India, evidence of early religious practices and symbolic art suggests a deepening spiritual connection with nature and the cosmos, which would later influence Hinduism and other religious traditions. Stone carvings and terracotta figurines discovered in South Asia indicate that people had begun expressing their beliefs through art and rituals long before formalized religions took shape. Another interesting aspect of early life in India was the development of trade networks. Even in 13,000 BC, humans were not isolated. There is evidence that different groups exchanged resources, tools, and even cultural ideas. Trade routes in the Indian subcontinent may have connected distant communities, allowing for a faster spread of knowledge and technologies. So, which continent was ahead? It depends on how you define advanced. In Europe, survival meant mastering the hunt, adapting to extreme weather, and creating incredible art. In Asia, the diversity of environments allowed for experimentation, from early permanent settlements to advanced tool-making and food variety. India played a crucial role in the early development of agriculture, structured communities, and spiritual thought, setting the stage for one of the world's most influential civilizations. The presence of agriculture, trade, and early religious symbols in the Indian subcontinent shows that, in many ways, Asia, particularly India, was on the path to civilization much earlier than Europe. If we look at long-term influence, Asia's early steps towards agriculture and settlement may have set the stage for the great civilizations that would follow. While Europe was still primarily dominated by hunter-gatherers at this time, the seeds of complex societies were already being sown in Asia. The Indian subcontinent, with its rich rivers, fertile lands, and early agricultural advances, was a key player in the transition from nomadic life to settled civilization. What do you think? Were the people of Asia, especially those in India, truly ahead of their European counterparts? Or did both continents have their own unique strengths? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe to Beyond Time TV, and join us next time as we explore more fascinating moments in history.